All right, so welcome everybody. I'm excited to have Don Mann here. I had the opportunity to have Don on our podcast, Championship Leadership, a few months ago. Like I had mentioned before, I listened to your book, Don, Inside SEAL Team Six, and that's how I came into you. And I forget, I was recommended by somebody, but I really did love it. Loved your story, and reached out to have you come on the podcast. You were nice enough to do that, and so just as I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today as well, for this Q&A and to talk about this book that you have. I know you have many books, so I recommend checking out all of Don's books. He's got them all available for sure on Amazon. But this one I love. This is a topic that is very personal to me as well. I think it's what limits a lot of people from living a life that they really want, from going after certain things in their life that, I think they would really want to, but for whatever reason, they can't get past the fear, right? I think it really does come down to that and this mindset. And of course, you went through, were a member of the U.S. Navy SEALs for over 20 years, and some of the physical things that you've accomplished as well are they're incredible accomplishments. And so in order to do anything like that, or any of the accomplishment, like you're talking about going and wing walking, like it's a Sunday walk and it's awesome. But a lot of people, they would have so many fears around that they would just, even though you're like, yeah, you tied in, so it's not a big deal. But for many, it's like, man, I don't care if I'm tied in or not. That's a hard thing to overcome inside of their head to get out to do some things like that. So I don't know if you could just maybe open up and talk about, why you put this book together and really kind of what that book is all about and how that applies to you in your life and how others can apply it.
Hey, Nate, it's nice to be on the show with you again, and I appreciate you having me. Facing your fears, it is something that I think is very, very important for all of us. Most people have the fear of public speaking. Some people have the fear of heights. Some people don't like walking over a bridge or driving over a bridge even.
Yeah.
But I remember an old story from an old Secretary of the Navy. He once had the fear of heights, fear of lightning, and the fear of rats. And what he did, he climbed a tree in the middle of the night, got rid of his fear of heights. He was up there in a lightning storm, which isn't really smart, but he broke his fear of lightning and killed an native rat. And he didn't get sick, but he broke all his fears. Early on in life, he knew those fears had to be beaten for him to succeed more in life. And that story always resonated with me. I love the way he faced fears, beat them down, and then went on with life. Because fears, they're healthy to have, and you have to have them to survive, actually, in evolution and all. But for instance, you and I were just talking about the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do some wing walking.
Yeah.
And it seems very dangerous, initially, somebody might think it's very dangerous. And if you have the fear of heights, it's going to be a little more scary. But I am so looking forward to it but I'll know to look at my harness. I'll know to look where I'm tied in and where I'm tied into the plane. And I'll look at the pilot's record. Nobody has ever fallen or been killed doing wing walking during this course I'll be taking. And so I'm going to check everything. So something that seems very, very dangerous, I'm going to make sure it's safe. And then I'm just going to face it. I'm going to be scared, but I'm looking forward to being scared. I want to do it. I want to face that fear up front.
Yeah. Well, talk a bit more about that. Like why is it so important for you to face the fears?
Well, the few times I've ever seen anybody do wing walking, for instance, it always was in the back of my mind. I wonder what that would be like. I mean, the pilots do acrobatics and you're flipping, you're doing loops, you're going upside down. So it's just something been back in my mind. Why not try it? I just want to try it. It doesn't take any training, really. You go through a half-a-day class.
Uh-huh.
But I just want to try it. Not so much to face a fear of being tied into a plane's wing and doing flips, but I just want to try it. But I know I'm going to be afraid. That's just part of it. And I'm not going to let that stop me.
Yeah.
No.
In your book, you have basically three parts, right? There's identifying your fears, embracing them, which, really is a lot of what you're talking about right here, right, is embracing them and then letting go of fear. Like, talk about those three parts and how they're important in this process of facing your fears.
As a young guy going through SEALs, you know it's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. You have a lot of fears. Maybe free fall parachuting is going to be scary for a lot of people. Maybe climbing a mountain, something like Everest or Denali. You know, a lot of people have been killed up there, and there's a lot of fears you have to face. What I've come to recognize in myself is I will look at these fears, I look at these challenges, and I am scared. Everybody's scared, I think, to some degree doing these things. And I look at them and I try to weigh it out. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? There's sometimes I don't think it's worth it. Right now, I'm going on this bicycle I had built to try to go 60 miles an hour. I'm starting to get wobble on my bike going over 52. I'm getting scared now because I know 52.2, 52.3, it wobbles more. And I know I can crash. Right now I'm weighing that out. I might have to have another bicycle built so I can go faster on a bicycle. So I don't feel like I'm reckless, and I don't feel that these challenges I take, I just do them in hopes I don't crash or get hurt or get beat up badly. I really weigh it all out. And a lot of things that seem very, very scary aren't that dangerous at all. And so I do embrace the fear. I recognize that it's there and it's healthy and it's there to protect myself. But I'm not going to let it stop me in doing what I want to do to live a full life if I can face those fears by recognizing the pieces of that activity that makes it safe and not safe. If it's outweighed of being unsafe, I won't do those things. You know, I look at guys like these climbers who are climbing solo, climbing these mountains solo, and there's a lot of them. You know, there's a lot of that guys out there who'll climb Yosemite. They'll go to Yosemite and, you know, El Cap, and they'll climb these rocks solo, and they make one mistake and they're dead.
That's it.
To me, that's way beyond anything I would try to do.
Yeah.
Me, I would face that fear and I would think, I don't have the skills. There's not a backup. I'm not going to do it. So I'm not saying they're reckless, but for me, I recognize my ability level, my age, my skill level. And if something exceeds that, I'll back off and I won't do it.
Yeah, I think, well, that's probably really important to mention or talk about, right? Because, I mean, you got to weigh the risks, the risk reward, if you will, of what you're talking about. And Alex Honnold, who that I think it's called Solo, the Netflix documentary that he does. And my palms are sweating just watching that and just knowing, like, man, it's so impressive that he does it. But like, it only takes that one little slip up and it's over. So it's not that we're saying facing your fears to the point where, like, you know, your life is on the line, but at the same time, to live a full life, what I heard you say, you know, it's unavoidable, right? It's almost seeking out some of those fears and confronting them versus just letting them control us.
That's right. Alex, I have so much respect for that young man. I mean, if I could adopt a son, I would want to adopt him.
Yeah.
I love the way he faces it head on, but he's so talented. He's beyond what most of us can even comprehend.
Yeah.
His skill as a climber, but he also he'll do a lot of practices, a lot with rope.
Yes.
And then once he's confident, he'll go after it. So in my view, he's just so many leagues above anybody else.
Yeah.
He doesn't fear dying because he believes he can do it as well. Yeah. But he doesn't have the backup plan that I would like to have.
Yeah, right.
Like a rope.
Yeah, or a parachute or something. A parachute wouldn't help in that case. But that's a big part of it too, right? It's preparation. And that was the one thing that I did take from that. And from, you know, like yourself, you're talking about going 60 miles an hour on a bike, which is pretty awesome and incredible. And but you're testing it out, right? You had a bike built, you're starting to hear that wobble, and now it's I don't know if I might need to make some tweaks. I might need to adjust or course correct here. Talk about that a little bit inside of, if you could, what you can share with us as a SEAL. There's got to be some risk reward there as well. But of course, I mean, we also know that, you guys are putting everything on the line for the mission. But yeah, where does that come into play from your time as an experience as a Navy SEAL?
I can remember so many days and nights we would finish doing whatever we happened to be doing, and everybody would toast one another, saying we survived death once again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many days throughout the years you would look around and say, boy, this could have been it for me. This could have been it. And sometimes I feel guilty because I'd always say a prayer before something bad could happen. Then I'd say a prayer afterwards. I noticed I was saying a lot of prayers right before something dangerous would happen. But it would happen all the time. But I can tell you, being around SEALs and being in a SEAL team, whatever this team was,
Mm-hmm.
as a SEAL teams 1, 2, and 6, being surrounded by SEALs, you don't really feel fear like you would if you weren't around these people, because nobody shows fear, and they have your backs and you have their back, and everybody's willing to do whatever it's going to take to get the mission accomplished. And the guys nowadays, they're going in and out of buildings many times, sometimes in a week, in a day, and they're being shot at, and their friends are being shot at. And as you know, there was a SEAL who was shot 27 times. He went into a building, was shot 27 times, 11 in the body armor, his legs, his arms, his groin. He was shot. He finished clearing the room. He came out and he told the pilot, I need some medical help. Imagine that type of fear, going into a building and being shot and shot again and again and again. And talk about overcoming fears. I can't imagine overcoming fears more than that. Knowing any one of those shots could be fatal. You don't know if it's going to nick an artery or something. And knowing you're still going to finish your job. If a guy like that can face his fears and go on to continue on with work, to me, that's the epitome of overcoming fears.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a lot to be said that, of course, for you guys, for U.S. Navy SEALs, any special operators, military personnel as well. I mean, there's a ton of training to get you to that point where you're not just winging it, of course. You guys the preparation never really stops. If you're not operating, you're preparing and you're training for the time when you're out in the field on mission.
That's right. That's exactly right. And if I was just thinking of this woman, Lydia Bradley. She wasn't a SEAL. She's small. She's a tough woman, and she was in 3 avalanches in one day. And I asked her. I was on Everest with her, and I said, Lydia, what's it like to climb Everest without oxygen? She's the first woman ever to climb Everest without oxygen. She said, well, I just like the challenge. It was a little scary, but I just like the challenge. And I said, and you come to Everest every year? And she's a guide now. She said, yeah, I do it for the check. I said, what do you mean the check? You don't do it for the adrenaline rush? And she said, well, I don't really get the adrenaline rush climbing Everest anymore. I need the more extreme climbs. And she told me she and her boyfriend were in India, and one day she was hit by 3 avalanches. The third one, she was tumbling and tumbling and tumbling, and she got buried alive. And her boyfriend was buried, and she saw the avalanche take the boyfriend. And her arm was stuck up like this, and she had this little pocket of air, and she was trying to breathe what air was left, and she knew she broke a lot of bones. And she's just thinking, this is how I'm going to die. This is bad. This is really bad. I just hope it happens fast.
Yeah.
Boyfriend broke out of his little snow cave. He came rushing down and saw a hand sticking out of the snow, and he pulled her up and saved her life. That's her facing fears. She doesn't see Everest as a fear anymore because she's done that. She's done it 8 times, and now she has to get something way, way, way more fearful in her life to even be considered a fear. And that fascinates me, that people can be like that. Race car drivers or pilots, stunt pilots. It fascinates me, people who face these fears, and they can grasp all of the mechanics of it, and what can they do to successfully succeed, and then do something even more challenging. And in their view, there are these adrenaline junkies. Alex might be one. Maybe he needs that adrenaline rush. And my friend Lydia, she probably needs the adrenaline rush. And I know that's part of it. But you only live so long as an adrenaline junkie if you can control and kind of navigate how you're going to face that fear, and how you're going to beat all the things that can go wrong. You don't live long if you can't control that and beat that.
Yeah, that's, there's a lot of great points there. It's like, number one, if you are chasing the adrenaline, like you got to, just like your friend said, well, I don't even get it from Everest anymore. It's like my new normal, right? So now she's got to do now she's got to continue to kind of increase that risk to get that push. And then there's the other piece of like, fear's good, right? I mean, there's a reason we have fear to keep us in check a little bit. And I don't know, maybe, is there a part of that even in as your time in a SEAL, the more situations you're in, is there the possibility that someone could kind of go into some of these missions like, man, I've been here, I've done this, I've seen this, and it could be a dangerous line to cross, to be like, to lose some of that fear, to lose some of that edge, if you will, or whatever you want to call it?
Absolutely, Nate. You just reminded me. I remember, we jump all the time in SEAL team, parachute jump, hay hose, and high altitude, high opening. And I remember guys going in, barely packing their chute, jumping out and throwing the chute up in the air. Like it's not a big deal, not even packed. And I remember some of those guys saying, when you take jumping this carelessly and you become this complacent and you don't have any fears at all, that's when that's when bad things happen.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine wouldn't even get excited about jumping unless he was jumping only a couple hundred feet off of bridges and buildings.
Oh, wow.
Because if you had 1,500 feet or 2,000 or higher, he didn't get that adrenaline rush. Those people, I think, are really pushing the envelope because you don't have a reserve. You don't have a reserve.
Yeah.
We jump, and I've had 2 malfunctions where I had to pull a reserve. I mean, when you get to the point of wanting to jump at a low level, so you have one chance, if the parachute doesn't open, you're dead. That's when your fears fall to pieces, and that's just for the adrenaline. And there is, I see that as a harmful effect that can happen to your body or mind when you get to that level where you just need the adrenaline. But jumping off a building, 600, 700 foot bridge, or building a base jump without a reserve, because a reserve wouldn't work at those low altitudes. That's an example of what I believe you just were meaning. It's dangerous, and it's just for adrenaline.
Yeah.
But the guys going in and out of the doors, fighting day in and day out, SEALs, Marines, Rangers, Army, they are afraid. They're lined up outside the door. They're all ready to go in. As soon as the breach goes, or the flashbang goes, and they know they're rushing into a building, they know that they're being shot at. They're afraid, but they also know their tactics in the building, the smoke, the diversion devices, the tactics moving in and around the buildings is as safe as they can make it, and they're doing it for a good cause.
Yeah.
That overrides the fears that they're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I want to open it up. We have some questions coming in, and so I'll read some of these questions. One is from Lacey Gwyther. She's out of Seattle. She's one of our clients, and so her question is: have you faced a fear in a relationship? She says, intimate, immediate, or business, and how did you handle that?
Lacey, I have actually. Not so much in business. In relationships, though, I have faced fears. Sometimes I just don't know if going beyond the point of the relationship we're in is the right thing. Sometimes I'm afraid to hurt somebody. I'm afraid to be hurt. Yeah, those are fears that I still have. I do have those fears. Not so much in business. In business, it's usually black or white to me. But I'd say relationships, yeah, I have those fears. I still have those fears where
Yeah.
you never really know what's right or wrong, what's black or white. So absolutely.
Would you be I think in your book, Inside SEAL Team 6, is that right? You talk about your son and some situation that happened there that I would have to imagine there was a lot of fears surrounding that situation that you share inside the book.
Absolutely, Nate. He was 19 years old, Christian, really, really good boy. And 99% of his life, a great, he worked out, he was smart, he was top of his class, but he did get involved in a bad group of kids, and he got involved in the drug community. And he got arrested. And I told him, I said, Christian, you're gonna have to turn in those bums you're working with. Turn them all in. They're all bums. They're just greedy people. They're selling drugs. Turn them in. Well, Christian did turn them in. They all went to jail. They all got out, and then they killed Christian. They shot him. And so, some people could say, "Don, that's your fault that your son was killed." And I won't accept that. What I did, it is true that he did turn all those people in, and they all went to jail, and he went to jail. Then they all got out, and they shot him. So that is something I face, and I'm confronted with quite a bit every time I think of that. So that is something that was a really, really tragic thing in our lives, and something I think about quite a bit.
Yeah, no, and thank you for being willing to share some of that. And yeah, I had a situation here this week where my daughter was being bullied, and a lot of I was taking on fears for her, right, and for myself as a father, and like how to show up for her in this moment, and so all of those things, and life. There's one thing, I think there's definitely one guarantee that like it's not to try and get to a point where you are fear-free or challenge-free or crisis-free, but it's more of a like preparing yourself to be able to handle those when they arise, right? Because we know that that's just part of life.
Nate, I have something I'd like to share with you because I was called very brave and courageous, and I rushed up to a crashed helicopter, and a lot of people were ducking and hiding, and I ran to the helicopter. But we were just 4 SEALs. We just fast roped down a helicopter rope, and one of our guys was hung up. His MP5, his weapon, was hung up on the helicopter, and we had all balaclavas on. We're all covered in our counter-terrorist gear. I said, Mark, come on down. He goes, I can't. I hurt my shoulder. It hung up and it dislocated his shoulder. So we ran up, and I was looking at his shoulder, and as I was overlooking his shoulder, I saw the Rangers coming in with a helicopter. The rear rotor of that helicopter hit the ground. The helicopter came up in the sky and started doing this. And at 40 feet in the air, it threw all the Rangers out of the back door. I saw a pink burst. And I was shocked. I was in shock. And I ran up to that helicopter as fast as I could. I was the first one there. And the helicopter had a crash landing. And there was a person who was decapitated. And I don't mean to be too graphic on this interview, but he was decapitated. I turned him over, and I was going to help him, but he had been decapitated. And I looked over to my left, and then I saw 6 other bodies that came out of the helicopter, and went and just helped all these people. And everyone else lived. And then afterwards, a general came up to me. General Luck is his name. And he said, and I was a corpsman, a medic. He said, Doc, that was very brave of you to run up to that helicopter. A lot of the people here were all ducking down and hiding. He said, well, what made you run up to it? I said, I tell you the truth, I didn't even think.
Yeah.
I didn't even think. I saw a body, and I got tunnel vision to even see the other bodies fly out. I had tunnel vision. I ran right to it. So there wasn't fear. There wasn't fear because I didn't even recognize that there could be something harmful in my way. All I knew is there was a body there that needed help.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think you can overcome fear. Your body will overcome it without you even have to consciously make the decision. It just would happen. And in that, I wanted to bring that up to you because I didn't consciously decide I got to run up to this thing that could blow up. I just ran up to it, and my subconscious mind overcame that fear.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Let's see here. We got Nick Nielsen next. Nick Nielsen, he's on our team here. He's one of my business partners. Don, you've done so many crazy physical things in your life. What is the connection between pushing yourself physically to new levels and living a full life?
Well, Nick, for me, living a full life happens to be pushing myself. It's just the thing I like doing. I like pushing my teammates also, and I like pushing people I train with and people I race with also. I believe when I got out of the SEAL teams, I looked around and I realized a lot of people out of the teams, they set their goals low. They reach their low set goal and they go home and they're happy with themselves. I just couldn't believe it because we leave all this unexplored, untapped, and we never ever will reach our full potential if we don't push ourselves. So I believe in that. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the fittest. I don't have any of that going for me. But what I do have going for me is I do have the ability to push myself. So whatever I have, I'm going to get the most out of it. And I don't mind the pain or discomfort that comes with it. Actually, by having that pain and discomfort, when that's all over, that's temporary, then the non painful times are all the more enjoyable for me. And I love pushing teammates and I love pushing my friends because they all feel the same afterwards. Wow, we got so much more out of ourselves than we thought. And I'm all American. I love America more than any place on this planet, of course. I've been serving our country in some capacity for over 42 years now. But in saying that, I think we have it so easy here. A lot of Americans have become lazy.
Mm.
A lot of Americans don't push themselves. A lot of Americans sit on the couch and expect things to come their way. And the more will come your ways, the more you push yourself. The more you're going to push yourself, the more that's going to come your way. And I don't think we should let that die in us. I don't think we
Yeah.
should let that die in us not to push ourselves. I think we have to do that as individuals and as a people.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you, and you've definitely pushed the limits, that's for sure. And you can. It's what's amazing is you continue to push yourself. I mean, if you haven't listened to the podcast we did, like at the end, you talk about the three things and out to do, like to just push yourself, get stronger, get faster, and continue to move, and all those things. And yeah, there's a lot of people that don't, and they're hoping that it's going to come to them. And the reality is that the more you sit still, I think the more the fear just overcomes and becomes this big crazy monster that you can't control, and the harder it is to then get back out there and move. So yeah, thank you for that. Kay, we got Kay in Florida. She's got a question for you here. So you are daring, adventurous, like being scared, and embrace your fears. What kind of kid were you? She says, were you always this way, or did you grow into these attributes as a young man? And like in your book, again, like awesome. You tell a great story about your childhood and coming up as a young man. So I'm excited to hear more about this.
And that's K to K.
Kay. Yeah.
K.
Kay.
Thanks for your question, Kay. Unfortunately, for my parents who have passed, unfortunately for them, I was the same way as a kid, and I went through misery. Actually, Evil Knievel was my role model. My father was a stunt pilot. My father had more spins before hitting the ground and then lifting off than any other stunt pilot at the time.
Wow.
My poor mother had to go through that, and my brothers, like I am, I think he's worse than I am actually. So we were doing stunts forever. What I tried doing in junior high was having a couple ramps built. We're going to jump over some fire trucks at a county fair and on motorcycles and pass each other in the air and land. Luckily, the county wouldn't let us do it, but we practiced that all the time. So as a kid, there was nothing more exciting for me than going up as high as I could, off a jump, way up in the air on a motorcycle, and going to the motorcycle races and going as fast as I could, and just jumping off bridges, landing in rivers. And unfortunately, I always had this in me.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I found the SEAL teams, and the SEAL teams took this energy and it was directed in a positive way. If it wasn't for me being able to find the SEAL teams, I probably wouldn't be around right now because I would have just done a lot of reckless things, and I wouldn't have had the structure that I needed in SEAL teams to make what seems to be reckless a lot safer.
Yeah.
And with a good purpose other than just an adrenaline rush.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's a great answer. This next one's from Shannon Stockwell. I've lost 145 pounds, which is amazing. Congratulations, Shannon. That's incredible. But you've been stuck at this and have been stuck at this point for years. I would like to lose another 80 pounds. I'm wondering how to break through this mental block of not being able to see myself at this lower weight. It's like I'm afraid to be at a lower weight. And so that's her question, maybe how to help take it to that next level. She's kind of stuck or plateaued.
Oh, Shannon, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big loss. And you'll go from here to here, but you won't go directly from here to here. You might take dips. But you'll still get to the point you want to. I personally believe that every time I get hungry, if I drink water, it puts off eating. And now, because water gets kind of boring, now I squeeze lemon in it. So now what I do, I drink water with lemon in it when I get hungry. In my house, I don't have anything that's fattening. If I get hungry, I'll have peanuts or crackers with cheese. And I don't have anything in my house that's bad for you. When I go out, I'll have things, I'll have meats and desserts and things like that. But I've just made a couple of rules for myself that aren't that hard to follow. And that is, don't have anything in the house that's fattening, sugars or sweets or anything like that. And when you're hungry, drink a little water with lemon in it. And that intermittent fasting, my God, I really swear by that. I mean, if your last meal happens to be at 6 p.m. at night and you could put off eating till 10 the next day, I mean, that's 10, 8, 16 hours without eating. That's a big, big help. What you have done, you could help so many people by sharing your stories on what you've accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my God, that's a great accomplishment for you. I wish you great success. And I know you can keep going. I know you can. Just little tips like that.
Yeah, thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, it's huge. And yeah, you got this, Shannon. So keep it going. I love it. Next one from Natasha. She's in Brooklyn, and she's one of our clients. Love Natasha. Life can be full of risks. She says it's easier when you have to face fears that only affect you. But how do we handle the fear of making the wrong decision because of other lives affected?
Oh, like a mother or father, perhaps.
Yes,
Yeah, that's even more critical there, right? I mean, boy, that's not too much unlike being in the military, being a SEAL. I mean, you could go into blasting through a door, and if you make a mistake, others behind you could be killed. If you make a mistake on a mission and you do something wrong, others behind you can be killed. On a lesser extent, as a parent, the decisions you're making, if that affects your family, is as simple as protecting your home. Do you have a weapon in your house to protect yourself? If you do have a weapon, is it loaded? If it is loaded, do you have children in the house that can take that weapon and hurt them? I mean, are you driving down the road and maybe get distracted by a text and you have children in the car and you make an error, you can lose your family. That's even more critical. I had this Indian motorcycle and I love that motorcycle. And I was married at the time. And the reason I decided to sell it is because a truck had cut right in front of me and I slammed on the brakes. I slid behind the truck, went around the truck, and somehow I didn't crash. But I started thinking, if my wife was on back of the truck, at the back of the motorcycle, and I'd hit the truck and she was killed or hurt badly, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. So I sold that motorcycle I loved so much because I didn't want to hurt somebody I loved or somebody that meant a lot to me. So yeah, when it comes to your family, it's tenfold. I mean, it's not just you; it's a whole different ball game there. So I appreciate that question. I don't think I have an easy answer, but I think it's just far more important to weigh the lives of your family over just yourselves, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Rhonda in Phoenix, she's got a question for you. What made you become a Navy SEAL? I know you maybe touched on it just a little bit, but yeah, let us know.
Hey, Rhonda, for me, it was such an easy decision. I wanted to serve our country. My father was a patriot. He was in the Navy. And when I saw that SEAL video showing guys running down the beach and doing pull-ups and sit-ups and jumping out of airplanes and blowing things up and shooting and being really fit and going all over the world and being a counter-terrorist team, there was nothing else in this world I wanted. And it was an easy decision for me. And it also made it easier for me to go through SEAL training, knowing there's nothing else in the world I wanted than being a SEAL. So once I found it, I was very grateful that I found there was no other choice for me. So that was it. It was easy for me once I saw that video.
It was all in the marketing. I love it. Eric Moon, he's got a question for you here. When you're at the point of pure exhaustion, how do you quiet that inner voice that tells you it's okay to quit? This is a big one for, I think, pretty much everyone.
Okay, Eric, I never, ever feel it's okay to quit. I don't think it's okay to quit ever, unless some bizarre circumstance. But when it gets really different, okay, I'm going to tell you, when I was doing 2 Ironmans in one day, I got out of the water, then I had 224 miles of biking to do, and now I have 2 marathons left. And 1 marathon went by okay. And then the second marathon, I had 1 marathon to go, which a couple of years before, that 1 marathon was a big deal. But now it's just a small part of this double Ironman. I had 1 marathon to go, and everything was hurting so badly. I was throwing up. My legs were hurting. My feet were hurting. My back was hurting. I started seeing white spots. I started dry heaving. I was spitting up some green bile, and it felt like I was choking up a rib bone. And then I passed out. And I laid down on the lawn. And when I woke up, I saw bikes riding by and bicyclists going by me and runners going by me. I realized I was competing in a double Ironman. And I got up and finished the race and got the medal around my neck. And then I realized after that all those times in my life when I thought something was too hard, too physically challenging, I feel bad for myself for some reason. Anytime I could make excuses that something was just too difficult, I was wrong. Because if it was too hard, too challenging, too physically difficult, my body would have done me the favor and I would have passed out. I would have got my rest. And that taught me a big lesson, because then I could never say it's too hard, I have to quit. If it is too hard, your body will pass out. If you could still keep going, it's not too hard.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Keep going. Never quit. Never give up. I love it. Kay, she's got another question here for you. She's curious about you building a bike that would go 60 miles per hour, which, I've kind of got the same thing. How do you build this bike? Like, are you working with a manufacturer? Is it something that you're building yourself? And then also she just added at the back of that, do you race competitively?
Okay, Kate, it took me about a year to have the bike built, and I had it built already. I talked to bike builders all over the United States, and I found the Hampton brothers. Andrew Hampton, the Tour de France competitor, actually beat Lance Armstrong on one of the Tour de France stages. He agreed to build a bike for me if I could find a chain ring. The front chain ring, I had to find one that was over 90 teeth. And I couldn't find one in the country. So I went all over the world looking, on web searches. And I found a company in New Zealand that could make a 90-tooth chain ring. So they sent the bike to the Hampton brothers, and they built the bike, which is a little bit longer than a regular size bicycle, a little bit thicker, a little bit wider tires, and it's meant for going really fast. And that bike, the math works out that if I can pedal at 100 RPMs, that 90-tooth chainring in the front, 11-tooth in the back, that I should be able to hit 60. What's happening now, I'll go 51 miles an hour, and I'll go as hard as I could until I'm running out of breath and my legs give out. And then I'll have to train 1,000 more miles to go back out in perfect conditions to go 1 mile an hour faster.
Oh,
And
wow.
at 51 to 52, it's such a big difference. And I'm only at 52.6 right now. I have a long ways to go, but I did have a bicycle built. It was built by the Hampson brothers, and the chaining was built in New Zealand. And my last race I did, which was a couple of weeks ago, was a mountain bike race. So yeah, I'm still racing. I love road racing, mountain bike racing, kayak racing. Those are still sports I still competed.
Oh, that's awesome. And so, tell us a little bit about, like you said, perfect conditions. Obviously, this is probably on a flat stretch. Are you doing this where you live? Is there somewhere else that you go to attempt this, or yeah, what does that look like?
Well, it's kind of funny, and I apologize. I'm coughing every now and then, but I got my lungs affected up on Everest. I got some high altitude damage to my lungs, which are healing. But so my pulmonologist said you stay at sea level for a while, and that's why I decided to have a bicycle built to go fast at sea level. And where I live in Cape Charles, Virginia, it's flat. There aren't any hills.
Okay.
And I had a cone built for behind my pickup truck, and it's wood on the sides and wood on the top. And the person driving my pickup truck, I'll drive inside of that box, and if he turns left or right, the walls come in at me. It's scary because you can't see anything and you can't see above you, but it protects the wind from hitting you. So I'll train behind my pickup truck, and also I'll take it out to the mountains and Blue Ridge Mountains, and they're not high mountains, they're just hills, but some steep hills, and I'll get my legs used to going really fast there. So I'm doing both.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, I appreciate you taking some time here today to answer some questions. Let's see. I'll just wait 1 minute to see if anyone else has any other questions. Here we go. Craig Shelley. Craig Shelley, he came through one of our programs. Good man. What kinds of self-talk or touchstones of faith or physical mementos do you employ to develop your determination to achieve a goal or to continue when the going gets tough?
I would have to say, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I would have to say I'm 100% goal focused, macro goals. As a young guy, when I said I want to be a SEAL, people would say, "How are you going to be a SEAL? You don't have anything going. You're not even an athlete. How are you going to be a SEAL?" If I want to do a marathon, how are you going to become a marathon? You're not a runner. How are you going to do an Ironman? I mean, so I really believe in setting your goals high, really high, macro goal. Then setting a series of micro goals, beat it. Before you know it, you're going to get that macro goal. So I'm a firm believer of setting big goals, and all the way up beating those micro goals, you're going to go further than you ever thought you'd go anyways. But that's my belief, is going after the big goals. Absolutely. If I didn't have goal setting, the macro goal, micro goal philosophy, I wouldn't have accomplished nearly anything in my life. I know I wouldn't have. I needed something, a simple plan. Macro goal is way up there. It looks impossible, but I'm going to do it, because you need two things: a big goal and a mindset, a combat mindset, we call it in SEAL teams, or mindset that I can do anything. And if I set my mind to something and it's a big goal, all it is setting up a series of micro goals and having the mindset that you can do it. And that, I believe, everybody has the ability to do. That's why I like doing the talks around the country.
Yeah.
Because I talk with doctors and lawyers and all types of people, and they all can relate to it. They all can relate to it. Setting macro goals, macro meaning really big, and a series of micro goals. The double Ironman story I was talking about, at one point my macro goal was to do an Ironman.
Yeah, right.
Now that's just a micro goal, because now that Ironman is just a small part of doing a double Ironman. And then once you do that double Ironman, which takes over a day, bring that down to the micro goal level. So now the next macro goal is maybe a 600-mile race.
Yeah.
And it really works. Yeah. I so believe in it. I would like to say one thing. Recently, and this is a facing your fear story, recently I was told that I could have IPF. And that's a pulmonary fibrosis that I developed from having HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema. I was reading it all. Yeah, I've got that. I've got those symptoms. I got them. And then the last part was, it's fatal, and there's no cure for it, and it's 3 to 5 year life expectancy. And I'm thinking, I've got a year and a half to live if this is all true. And it was a fear I had to face. This was a couple of weeks ago. And then I had to deal with that. I think, okay, a year and a half to go. I better get my act together here. And I'm happy that my last thoughts during that time period was, all I want to do is help as many people as I can before my year and a half is up. I was happy I thought about that. And then I talked with a high altitude pulmonary doctor, and he said, we don't think that's what you have. We don't think that's what you have. So I was so relieved, but facing the fear of thinking you have a year and a half left, that was the last fear I faced. And that was just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
But I was calm. I was thinking, okay, I better deal with this. And that was the last big fear I had to face.
Wow.
And that was just a couple of weeks ago.
Just a few weeks ago. Wow.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Oh man. That's incredible. Yeah, the micro goals, like you kind of talked about that, like to go 60 miles an hour, right? You're like 51, and now for every additional mile per hour you have to go, there was, would you say, 1,000 extra hours or miles you have to go to increase to get the capacity to then hit 52, and so there's a long ways to go. So essentially 53 is a micro goal, 54, 55, 56, all the way up to 60, right?
And then if you have to travel or the weather's bad, you start going backwards a little bit and you have to start over.
Yeah.
So the next macro goal might be 51 again.
Yeah, right. We're going to take, let's see, we'll take 2 more questions here. Yeah, I want to respect your time here. Do you ever take breaks? This is from Natasha again. Do you ever take breaks or time to recharge? How often, and what do you do to recharge or recover?
Natasha, yeah, I do believe race pace hurts a lot. And if you go race pace your whole life, you're going to burn out, and it doesn't work. And I say race pace because as a runner, we have conversational pace where you can run with somebody, you can talk with them on the treadmill or whatever, or race pace where you can't talk to the person you're training with because you're going so fast, you give everything you have to go forward. But I like to say at SEAL team and then in the military in general, you can't afford to train at conversational pace. You have to train at race pace to get to that macro goal or that objective or that mission. You have to go to race pace to get there. And once you have achieved that objective or that mission, that macro goal, then take some time and back off and relax and enjoy the accomplishment you just made and recharge doing something you like doing. For me, I like music, and I like, being at the beach and being in the mountains, and just do something that's more relaxing, but still have in your mind the next macro goal. I'm working with a woman now, Leanda Cave, the top female triathlete ever in the world. 4-time Ironman champion, world champion. And she told me, she said, Don, after I won my first Ironman, I got whisked away into a room to do my drug testing and everything. And I'm the Ironman champion. And then I trained really, really hard. And now I'm the Ironman champion. And then I started thinking, boy, I've got a half Ironman coming up in Miami. The awards ceremony the next day was 90 miles away. She thought to herself, well, I better start getting ready for that half Ironman. I'm going to get on that bicycle. I'm going to ride 90 miles to the award ceremony. That's how she thinks about it. That's a world champion. So reach the goal and then take a break and relax. Leanda didn't take much of a break. She took that little night in the hotel room as her break, and she got on a bike and went 90 miles to the award ceremony. But I do believe work really hard, take the break, and then go after something bigger.
Yeah, thank you. Last question here. We'll go Angelica Castro. It's kind of a 2-part question. She said, first, what advice do you have for parents or those who feel that being reasonable doesn't allow them to take risks like they used to before? And then also, I've heard we should do something daily that scares us. What are your thoughts on that? So first part, what advice do you give to parents or those who feel being reasonable doesn't allow them to take risks? So, I put a post about, like, many of us, we don't push ourselves because we feel like it's maybe unreasonable to us in our life. And you're a great proof that what's unreasonable to many is like very reasonable to you, right? And so that's why you do it. So
Yeah, Angelica. Yeah, exactly, Nate. I feel that. Like, I'll put it in the perspective of rock climbing. Rock climbing, you measure it with a 5.8, 5.9, a scale of 5.10. 5.10 is easier than 510A, which is easier than 510B. And when you're talking about 510, you're talking about a vertical wall, basically. A 5.9 is a fairly easy climb. A 5.8, most people can do a 5.8. Some people will look at a 5.8 climb. You're roped in, you're on belay, you have handholds, you have footholds. That is so easy. That is so easy. Other people will look at that as, oh my God, that is so scary. We bring it back to Alex Hanold. Now he's doing 5.13s without rope.
yeah.
It's all so relative.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much. We get a lot of messages in here. We got one, Sarah Gray. She's in Europe right now. She got up at 4 a.m. to be here with us today. Just really appreciate you, Don, taking some time again to be with us. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
We covered a lot there with Don. Let me ask you a question. What if 120 days from now, you were really completely rewired to be totally unreasonable? Like, what would you be doing if the self-imposed limits were off? What would your body look like? What would your business look like? What would your life relationships look like? Wouldn't they be amazing? Can you really picture it in your mind? Can you feel how different things would really be? What if you and I sat down and we mapped out a crazy, unreasonable challenge that's perfect for you, and over the next 120 days, you trained for it and you actually went out and did it? What if it changed your life forever, just like it's changed Don Mann's life, just like it's changed my life? What if instead of settling for mediocrity or going through a midlife crisis, we work together to get you strong, looking fit and sexy, and making more money this year than you ever have, and being a championship leader inside of your life? If I could help you do that, is that something that you'd like to know more about? Would it be okay if I spent 5 minutes with you right now at the end of this call and show you what that would look like for us to work together to get you there? I'm getting 5 people together over the next few weeks, and we're all going through this exact process together. All the preparation, selecting the perfect event, the journaling, the mindset training, accountability and inspiration, the friendships and lifelong bonds that will get formed unlike anything else that you've ever experienced. And over the next 120 days, we will walk you through the exact process of rewiring your brain to reset itself to a completely new level of what's normal, reasonable, and good enough. 4 years ago, I was close to 300 pounds. I couldn't run an 8-minute mile if my life depended on it. Now I run ultra marathons. I've run 100 miles, and I'm training right now to run the Moab 240 miles. I've sold my business. I started coaching entrepreneurs full time, saved my marriage at the same time. That didn't seem reasonable or even possible from where I was 4 years ago. But here I am today. This is exactly what you'll experience inside of this group as well. Want to know the details? Text me at this number, 507-358-0703. Again, 507-358-0703. Give me your full name and say, I'm in, and I'll give you all the details. Texting me doesn't mean you're in the group. It means you're in for a phone conversation with me. It all starts with a single conversation where you and I take 20 minutes or so to get really real about what you want, what's stopping you from getting it. And we find out together if I can help you to get there faster than you've ever thought possible. Does that work for you? If we can work together to get you there over the next 120 days instead of 10 years, would it be worth your time to get on the phone? Text me now. It's my personal cell phone, so I'll respond to you directly. We'll set up a time that works for you, and we'll find out together just how limitless your new life can actually be. Text me now. We'll talk to you soon.